What was it? It's beer 30, right? What's up, guys? This is Bradley with Semantic Mastery. It's 5:02 p.m. June 10th, 2015. This is Masterclass Week 14. Wow, 14 weeks, guys. And this is Local SEO Case Study Part 3. Marco is here with me today. Looks like everyone else bailed out. What's up, Marco?
Hey, everybody.
So, Marco, are you going to do timestamps since no one else is here?
I will be doing timestamps.
Awesome. Thank you for that, because those are very, very important. All right, guys, we are going to get right into the training because we've got a lot to go through as usual. And as I've mentioned before, and let me just make sure, since we don't have Adam here, it looks like, wow, that's an awful picture, but it looks like we are actually streaming, so we should be good to go. All right, let me grab the entire screen.
Cameraman.
Yeah, I did that already, but thank you. Thank you for reminding me. All right, so guys, we're going to talk about this. As I mentioned before last week, during this case study, questions are encouraged. And Marco, I know you're timestamping, but if you can also monitor the events page and just kind of interrupt me as needed. As long as the questions, and this is the one rule, the questions have to be related to what the training material is that we're covering. I'm not answering crazy left field questions that have nothing to do with this specific training. Okay, guys. So I'm sorry, but that's the rule. So as long as it's related to what we're talking about during the lesson, then please ask away. And Marco, please feel free to interrupt me, and we'll get to them. Okay.
No problem.
All right, guys. So this is Local SEO Case Study Part 3. And today what we're going to cover is the Week 2 review, what I did between last week and this week. Again, questions are welcome as we cover this. I decided or made a final selection on the niche. I actually did not do any additional keyword testing that I had hoped to get to. I ended up having my daughter last weekend, so I didn't get anything done over the weekend. And in this week, the first couple days, what's Wednesday now, but for Monday through today, I've actually had some client work stuff that I've had to get done. I've been putting off, so I've had less time to work on this than I wanted to. So I didn't get any additional testing done on keywords. So I went ahead and selected a niche. We'll talk about that in a minute, and I'll explain why, because we're going to go through each of these in detail. The lead gen site setup, I started that just like I said I would from last week. The structure's in place, and now today we're going to talk about the SEO strategy. I kind of planned that out. Mentioned very briefly in Hump Day Hangouts just a moment ago about poking a niche, and guys, every single time I put a to-do list together for the next week, they're subject to change at my discretion. I'm going to try to stick with some things. I try to create an outline. I work best by outline, and then, but occasionally there's going to be some changes that are made, and then I'll certainly discuss those with you guys or notify you of them when they've been done. But we talked very briefly about poking a niche, in the webinar just prior to this during Hump Day Hangouts. And there's a couple ways to do that. We kind of poked a niche with the YouTube videos. And what I mean by poking a niche is testing. And that's kind of what we did with the test with the Hangout Millionaire that I did, the video testing. But once you get the site built, you can also poke that as well. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But we're going to go through the SEO strategy and what my plans are going forward for the next several weeks now that we're getting into the off-page stuff. Okay, so we're going to talk about the goals for next week and then any follow-up questions. All right. So the niche selected. Again, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to do any additional testing. I did not have the time to do it. But that said, I did have the opportunity to see where the videos that I had done, which was 44 of them, where they ended up kind of settling in place. And so I'm going to drop, in fact, you guys can take a look at this too, because this is a public report. You just it's password protected. I'm going to drop this for you, Marco, if you don't mind pasting that on the events page so people can actually go look at the report themselves if they'd like. But I'm also going to open this in another window, and we'll jump into that for a moment. All right, guys. So these are the 44 videos that I had that I was using to test, and you can see, unfortunately, the way Pro Rank Tracker works is I wish that when you created a public report, it would show all of them like on one page, but unfortunately it doesn't. So we have to select by URL over here, but in one at a time. But you can see, like, home remodeling Gainesville right now, that's fallen out. It's it was around 9-10 for a couple of days, and now it's fallen out. But guys, it'll come back. I mean, this is just typical. Most of you here should already know that. I do know that some of you still freak out though, because I get the support tickets and we get private messages and stuff like that where people go, I syndicated a video and it was ranked at number 11 for 3 or 4 days, and now it's gone. What did I do? Did my account get flagged? There's always the sky is falling, and you'll realize after time, those of you that aren't aware, that that's just typical. That's normal. That's just the Google dance. So this particular keyword, you can see right now, it's not even in the top 100. It should come back. I'm not worried about it. So you can see it had bounced around between 8 and 10 for a couple of days, and now it's gone. So I suspect it'll come back. And this is for a pretty broad term, home remodeling, Gainesville. Now, guys, remember I talked about this specifically. Let's go over to Google Maps for just a moment. Let's just kind of do a little recap on this. Gainesville, Virginia is not that competitive of an area at the moment, okay? But this is why I selected it, and I'm going to go through this here, guys, with you.
Hey, Bradley, that rank report you posted is asking for a password.
Yeah, and the password was right below it, Semantic Mastery. In the chat, it's Semantic Mastery, capital S, capital M.
Okay. I got it.
Okay. Yeah, guys, it's Semantic Mastery, all one word, but capital S, capital M. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I talked about this in the setup and the criteria, the case study criteria, about why I was setting this up the way that I was, but that there was 3 areas that were kind of close together in Virginia, and Gainesville was kind of the center, and that's what's called Haymarket, which Haymarket is actually right here. It's just outside of Gainesville. Then there's Gainesville, Virginia, and then there's Manassas, which Manassas is the bigger metropolitan area around here. And even Manassas isn't huge compared to some of the other cities closer to Washington, D.C., but it's a more competitive area. There's more, a higher population density, that sort of thing. But I've talked about this in the criteria, guys, but I like to go after, especially when going into a new niche, I like to go after the outlying areas where I can gain traction very, very quickly. And then I move in or expand the territory once the site has gained traction and is generating leads and generating revenue, and also building authority. Then I go and I start hitting the adjacent areas that are usually more competitive. And it makes it easier to get into those areas, okay, to penetrate those areas, because I've already gained traction and started building authority in the outlying areas. So I always like to take the easy approach and go after the less competitive. Now, had I gone after Haymarket, I could have probably ranked that thing overnight without doing anything else. I mean, even the website, because it's a very rural area. It is also growing, but it's still it's not like Gainesville. Gainesville is an area, and by the way, something I wanted to bring up, I didn't think about this till after I put the slides together, but guys, you should also be thinking about contacting a lot of times you can find this information on the web, depending on your local municipality's web presence, but going to your local or your county or city or whatever, like Department of Economic Development, and finding out which areas of your city or county that they're developing or that are growing, or what the plans are in the future. And guys, start thinking long-term about your business instead. Look, I know most of you are probably here thinking about, how can I make money today? How can I make money this month? Because I need it this month. But if you start planning ahead to how can I make money 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, and start setting yourself up and thinking long-term like that, guys, you can get amazing results and build yourself an empire with a lot less work. I know you may need money now, so there are certainly things that you can do for that. But my point is if you go into like your county and find out if there's like the Department of Economic Development, or there's the Planning Commission, there's those different departments within your local government that you can find to see what kind of improvements are going to be made, or which areas are growing, what plans they have to improve, like housing developments and things like that. Obviously, when they build housing developments, they end up building strip malls, and there's more commercial stuff as well, shopping and grocery stores and stuff like that. So, and which means they need more contractors, right? There needs to be more plumbers and more HVAC guys. All of that stuff, guys, those are great areas to start targeting, because they're usually like drop dead simple to rank for and build lead gen sites for, that you can rank for and just dominate and own the top spots. And as those places begin to grow, I mean, you could rent them out for dirt cheap at the moment because they probably don't produce a lot of traffic and a lot of revenue, but you can rent them out for dirt cheap. And as things start to grow a year down the road, 2 years down the road, now you've got assets that are producing money that really took you little to no work to rank. Okay, so guys, I just wanted to kind of give that. The reason I brought that up is because I selected Gainesville, and we're gonna talk about these with these bullet points as well, because of Gainesville is a very rapidly growing area, and it's right outside of the metropolitan area of Manassas, and it's moving westward, which means Haymarket is next. Haymarket is growing too, just not at the same rate as Gainesville. So this is going to be a very lucrative area going forward. It's already lucrative now, but it will become more lucrative as we progress. So that's why I selected that area specifically. So hopefully that makes sense.
Hey, Bradley.
Go ahead.
We have questions about the videos.
Okay.
He wants Scott Rogers wants to know if the 44 test videos are in a test channel and not the niche channel.
Yes.
And one keyword or long tail per video, and if you have a tool that you use to upload in batch.
Yes. Great question, Scott. First question, for answer to your first question is yes, they are all in one channel. That was covered last week, but that's contractorhangouts.net. I'm sorry, that's the associated website. It's my Contractor Hangouts YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/contractorhangouts, that's going to be the channel. You'll see them. Okay. It's a channel that has been aged. I've had it for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years now. I'd actually had an associated. I've used it for a lot of spam stuff. I've used it for some client videos too, but I've also done a lot of spam stuff with it. And it's an aged channel though, nonetheless. Okay, so I did all 44 videos for this particular case study, and they're pretty much spammy videos through that channel. Okay, that was question number one. What was part number two? Long tail keywords. Yes, each video targets one keyword, guys. I teach that already in IFTTT SEO Academy, and I always target one focus keyword per video. If it ranks for additional keywords, that's great, but it's always the title of the video is my exact match keyword, and I try to target just one keyword per video. Okay, and the last part of that question, Scott, is yes, I use Hangout Millionaire. We talked about this last week. By the way, guys, we're going to be doing a webinar with Peter Drew, the developer of Hangout Millionaire. We're going to do a webinar showing how we use it, and it's going to be probably about a month from yesterday, because we're doing our webinars with people on Tuesdays. We've got one scheduled for 2 weeks out from now, which I forgot to tease that during Hump Day Hangouts. Damn it. For those of you who want to learn about YouTube ads and how to use them, and I've used them for local stuff, and I'm using them for some affiliate stuff now, and they work very, very well. YouTube ads, you can get dirt cheap clicks. You don't have to worry about doing a ton of SEO stuff. Justin Sardi with YouTube Ads Bootcamp and his awesome software called TubeSift. We're doing a webinar with him in 2 weeks from yesterday. So Tuesday, the 23rd, I believe it is, at 8 p.m. You guys should be on that. Even if you don't purchase anything, come learn about YouTube ads and how you can use them. And I'm going to talk about how you can use them for local to improve your rankings. Google tells you that buying AdWords does not help with SEO, but they're full of shit. Because I know that that's one of the things that I do occasionally if videos are stuck and I can't get them to budge, is I'll go set up some YouTube ads to that video and just set my daily spend rate to like $3, and then get some clicks from that where I pay per click. So it's essentially pay per view, and end up getting them to move. So we'll talk about that more, guys. I didn't want to get off on a track, but just for you, Scott, yeah, Hangout Millionaire, it's an app that I use that does a lot of video syndication, automates it. If you guys are even interested in purchasing that, I wouldn't purchase it directly from hangoutmillionaire.com just yet. Wait until our webinar, because we'll probably get a much better deal. Okay. But I did cover that last week as well. So, guys, we're only going to run through a couple of these very quickly just to show you what I'm looking at. But this was home remodeling Gainesville, VA. You could see this is what I was talking about with poking a niche. I was using these videos to determine which keywords I wanted to go after, the ones that were more successful with just the initial syndication with no additional SEO work, right? They just went across my networks. I shared exactly which networks I used last week, so you guys have full transparency as to what it was I did. And you can see that home remodeling did very well. Now, again, it's disappeared for the moment, but it should come back. So that was a good sign. So we're going to just go through a couple of these. We don't have time to go through 44 of them. Basement remodeling Gainesville. This is not that competitive of a term typically, but it is a sub-niche of home remodeling. And you can see that as since I syndicated this out within the last, 10 days or so, as I literally just started testing videos like 10 days ago, maybe 11 days ago now, you can see that already I'm at position 11, 10 or 11 now. And you can see it's climbing. It's just been going up with no additional work, right? So that's a good target to term, or a good term to target. Kitchen remodeling Gainesville. This is going to be one of the more competitive of the terms because kitchen remodeling is generally more, more common. And you can see I'm hovering right around 15 right now. Not really much movement there, but all of these guys are good signs to know that with just an initial syndication, I'm on page 2, between the middle to the top of page 2. That means that I'm in a niche that I want to go after. Okay, we'll go through just a couple more here. Bathroom remodeling Gainesville. This one you could see was hovering around 20, 19, and look, in just the last couple of days, it's jumped, and now it's position 8 for bathroom remodeling Gainesville, VA. And guys, you may see different results because remember these. It depends on where your IP is. I don't know if you search it if it's going to show up or not. I didn't even check Google to see it, but I'm just going by what Rank Tracker is showing me. All right, so we'll look at one more. And this one would be basement finishing, which is a synonym or a related term with basement remodeling. Okay, and you can see that this one's doing very well too. So that said, also guys, I had a bunch of the countertop terms like glass countertops, Manassas, VA. That's number 1. Remember, we went over this last week. If we go through just a couple of these very quickly, you'll see that we have, I must have selected the same one. Let's go check another one. Butcher block countertops, Manassas, that's another one. Well, countertops is, and we're going to talk about this with the site structure. They could be either a sub-niche of home remodeling, or it could end up being its own silo on the site. And I haven't decided yet, and that's why I said at the beginning of this presentation that, everything is subject to change. And, I never have a plan that goes 100% as planned. There's always adjustments. You have to modify and adjust throughout the process. That's just the way it is, right? And so right now I have countertops, and we'll talk about this in the site structure in just a few minutes. But right now I have the site structure showing countertops is basically a sub niche of home remodeling, but I might end up just giving that its own category and targeting someone entirely different. My thought process on this, guys, was originally because the countertop keywords ranked so easily and very, very high that I was going to use that as my, and this may still be the case, but I was going to use these as my lead in to target like kitchen renovation or kitchen remodeling type contractors and say, well, hey, you guys, right, you sell countertops or you install countertops. Well, we're getting leads from all these different countertop places because we're ranked for all of these different terms: Corian, butcher block, granite, laminate, concrete, glass, all these different types of countertop videos that I have in this report. Most of them are ranking very, very well. That could be the lead in, my foot in the door, because they were really, really easy to rank. But to go after the more lucrative terms that are a bit more competitive, which would be like the remodeling terms. So that's why right now I have in the site structure, and we'll get into this, like I said, in a little bit, but I have that as kind of a subcategory of home remodeling. However, if I gain traction in the main home remodeling categories, kitchen, bathroom, basement, plus home remodeling, right, then I might make that a standalone silo on the site and use that as an entirely different lead gen, like monetize that to a second company, which could be strictly a kitchen countertop or a countertop installation company. Okay, well, we'll talk about that as we go. So,
hey, Bradley.
Yes.
Question from Mary Rose.
Okay.
She wants to know what happens to the video which is optimized. Once you poke the niche, if the video isn't optimized, do you delete it, delist it, replace it with and then replace it with a better one, or what should you do?
You mean if it is ranking or if it isn't ranking? I'm not sure what she means.
Well, I would presume that she's asking about, she poked the niche, the video worked, but it's not optimized. What should she do?
It worked, but it's probably a spammy video, you mean?
Correct.
Well, I leave it up. I absolutely leave it up and just put the lead gen phone number on it and a call to action. And then I'll go back and do a more, like a more higher quality video. And that's that's what we're doing here, guys, right? We're poking the niche with these spam videos that I created and uploaded with Hangout Millionaire. In fact, Hangout Millionaire actually created them for me, other than the PLR videos, which have they were made unique by adding a little bit of audio in the beginning and at the end. That's what makes each file unique. But the rest of them were just slideshow videos, right? And the countertop videos they were just slideshows of countertop images and some text, call to action text, and some audio, right? So when those rank, I'm not going to take them down. Shit, no. I mean, if they were for a client, for example, and I was testing for keywords for a client and they didn't like the videos because they were spammy, then I might unlist them. I don't ever delete them, because then you just cut off all that juice that's flowing into the videos. But you can go set them to unlisted and the juice still flows in. They just don't show in the search results. Does that make sense? But then what I'll do with those, if I unlist them, if it's for a client, and sometimes they don't, they think it lowers their perception, their image. It's like a negative reflection on who they are as a company. If they've got a spammy video out there, I'll still spam videos out to test keywords for clients. But when they object to them being spammy type videos, then I just unlist them, but there's still juice flowing into those videos. And then what I do is I do the more traditional video, or the higher quality video for the same keywords, rank those, and then in the unlisted videos, the spammy ones, I put an internal link to those videos, to the more higher quality videos, which helps those to rank even better and faster, if that makes sense. But for lead gen stuff, I don't care, because I'm not worried about it negative reflecting on anybody's brand. All I give a damn about is it taking up space in the SERPs and generating phone calls. That's it. I don't care. I'm not worried about protecting anybody's brand, because it's my site, my property. I don't have to answer it to anybody, right? So I'll leave the spammy videos up, because that's just one less place for a competitor to have a listing. That makes sense. Okay. So hopefully that answered that question, Mary. It depends on who it's for. If it's for a client, then I can understand that. I still test with spam videos, because I'm not going to spend a bunch of time optimizing and trying to rank a really nicely well done video, when I can spam out 15 videos in a matter of 48 hours to test various keywords. And then if once I determine or identified the keywords that it will rank for, then I go back to the client and say, okay, look, I'm going to rank you for these terms, the ones that ranked, right? And then I just unlist those videos and point links internally to the new videos, that are the higher quality videos, the ones that they want ranked. Okay. So spam, guys, it's great. I love spam. All right, we're going to move on. The lead gen site setup is the domain. I ended up using the localhomepros.net, and I set it on a subdomain, guys. I tell you all the time that we build on subdomains. Everything we do is on subdomains. And so I built this one on GainesvilleVA.localhomepros.net. If you guys want to go take a look at the site, you're more than welcome to. I believe I had it open. Maybe I don't. But we're going to go through this anyways. GainesvilleVA.localhomepros.net. All right, so as I mentioned previously, I have just a standard WordPress theme on here. This is I always start off with this theme, guys, and I start building the site out on this theme, and then I will go in and skin it after I've gained some traction. In this case, because we have limited, I'm trying to condense this case study into just a few short weeks. I'm probably going to go ahead and skin this anyways. Put a different theme on it. And probably going to use the Ink Themes lead gen theme, because I like that theme. I use it on a lot of lead gen sites, and I'm very familiar with it. So I'm probably going to end up skinning this between now and next week. That's on the bullet list of the to-do list for next week. But just so you know, typically I will build the sites out on this theme, and then wait until I've got it ranked before I change the theme out, because I don't like to spend time changing the design of sites until I know that it's ranking, and then I'll go in and change it, because otherwise to me it's a waste of time, because it could be a site that just performs very poorly, and so what's the point in doing all that design work if you don't get any traffic to it? You know what I mean? So But just to let you know, and you can see that I've just got a test post on here for now. It's funny, I found this lorem ipsum generator called Bacon Ipsum. And it just was funny as hell. So as a matter of fact, we'll just go look at it real quick. But I was just looking for some dummy text, and that came up as yeah, right here, Bacon Ipsum. And I thought it was funny, so I did a post using that text called "I love bacon."
Terry just said, "I love bacon."
Yeah, so do I. So I thought it was funny. So this is the homepage, and it's funny because they work in a bunch of terms like jerky, fatback. Anyways, this is just the homepage post that I have on here right now, and it's just so that the RSS feed has a post in it because I ordered the IFTTT network, the branded IFTTT network, which we'll get into that in a minute. And you have to have at least one post on your site in order for the RSS feed to be accepted by IFTTT. Okay, but so here's the main domain that I got set up, Gainesville.va or GainesvilleVA.localhomepros.net. Now, I'm going to be targeting home remodeling, and we're going to walk through the site structure here in just a moment. But I'm doing this on Gainesville, VA, so that I can target, because if we go back to the maps, guys, remember, I can gain traction in Gainesville and Haymarket using the same site. I can rank in both maps for both Gainesville and Haymarket using the same site. Once I gain traction there with that lead gen site, then I can actually build another lead gen site on the same domain using a different subdomain targeting Manassas, right? Because Manassas is the bigger area. And then I can go target Centerville. Then I can go east and go hit Woodbridge, or I can go, further east, northeast and go to like Vienna or Fairfax. This is a much larger area, right? And then there's like Leesburg up this way. Anyways, these are all cities that I could go target with additional subdomain sites. And I like to build the sites with the city as the subdomain, because guys, think about this. For once I gain traction with this Gainesville site, which again will rank in both Gainesville and Haymarket, then if I go and I build a Manassas.localhomepros.net, it's going to automatically benefit from the authority that I've built to the site, right? Because the domain authority will have gone up for localhomepros.net. And then likewise, and remember, because I'm going to be building links to the pages and the posts, so all that juice is going to be funneling in, and the root domain, localhomepros.net, is going to benefit from this subdomain. So then when I go to build another site, my next lead gen site, then it's on this domain, it's going to automatically benefit from that authority. And then it's going to start to have this exponential effect, right? Because now I'm going to be building inbound links to the Manassas site. So I'm going to be adding now building authority from 2 subdomains into the root. So then let's say I move into Fairfax, right? And I add another subdomain for Fairfax. Now see how very quickly it will start to exponentially grow authority or build authority. And I've got a lot of lead gen sites that I built out that way, guys, that are on subdomains, and it's very, very effective, because for each subsequent site that you build on that root domain as a subdomain, you rank faster and quicker than you did on the previous site because of the authority already built. Okay, it's very, very powerful, and you save on domain costs, right? So let's go back to the presentation. The default pages and plugins. Let's see, I might be logged in Chrome still. If I am, yeah, we are. Let's go in here and we'll go take a look at the plugins. You guys can see what I have in here. I install, I mentioned this last week, but I use a clone whenever I set up WordPress. I never use like the, Fantastico or anything like that. I always use a clone because I use a cloning script. There's a million of them out there, so you guys use whatever the hell you want for cloning. I use one that Peter Garrity came out with called Replicator Pro. It's not even for sale anymore, but that's just what I use. I've just been using it forever. So these are all the different plugins that I just have in my clone file for lead gen sites, or my clone copy for lead gen sites that I typically just use. Okay, and I don't turn them all on until the site's completed. Right now, I've just got on a few of them, and you can see them right here. If you guys want a list of these, I'll put this in with the notes and the training in the replay of the members area. Okay, but these are the ones that I typically use. I did mention in the Hump Day Hangouts just a minute ago, for those of you that didn't see that I am using the Network Empire Silo Builder plugin. It's free, and I'm not using the upgraded video version. I don't care about that. I use the free version for almost all of my sites that I build with silo structure. If it's a complex silo structure, I use this plugin, and it's free. Okay, Network Empire.
Bradley,
go ahead.
Before you go any further, Ken has a really good question. Since we're always working on subdomains, he wants to know what you put on the root as far as content.
Nothing at the moment, but I'm going to. Right now, if you go to the root, it's nothing. In fact, I might have it just redirected to. No, actually, I think it's going to come up as nothing at the moment. Let's go take a look at it. I don't think I have.
No,
anything.
but I mean, what will go on there? Will anything go on there eventually?
Okay, so the brand that I created for this, guys, this is going to, you know, if I choose to build this out, which if I'm going to put work into this for this case study, I'm going to go ahead and build this out and make money off of it, and then I'm going to probably expand it into other areas, just like I said, or other related niches. Okay, that you can do that too. We'll talk about that when we get a little bit further. But this is Home Pros. Local Home Pros is the brand here. So what I actually ordered, and I already ordered the content for, and you can see that was one of the bullets here. I ordered the content and the logos and the graphics. And the logos and the graphics, I am having Home Pros is the name of the brand. The brand is Home Pros. Okay, so I've got local Home Pros as the root domain, and then I'm going to have all these different cities, and each city is going to have its own unique name. So this one's Gainesville Home Pros. If I do another one, it's going to be Manassas. You know, like I said, if I go to Manassas next, which I probably will, it's going to be Manassas Home Pros. So on the root domain, I'm just going to put the graphics that I had created. I'll probably have some generic front page that, you know, talks about what Home Pros provides, home remodeling and renovation services to the Northern Virginia area. You know, contact any one of us here for, you know, for, any one of our partner or contractors using the list below or something like that. And then link down to my subdomain sites from there. And that's it. It'll just literally be a home page, probably an about page and a contact page on the root. And that's it with the consistent theme or the, you know, the consistent graphics, because all the subdomain sites will still have the same graphics. They're just going to have a unique name, probably with the city name in it. So Gainesville Home Pros, Manassas Home Pros, Fairfax Home Pros, whatever. Does that make sense? I think hopefully that was clear. The root domain will be built out, but I don't do that until after I've already started gaining exposure with the subdomain. I don't worry about that until that's done. Okay, so once I have the design set up for the subdomain, then I'm going to go model that design on the root domain, but it's just going to be very generic, and it's going to be it's going to be literally, like I said, homepage, about, and contact, and then the required pages like privacy and terms, stuff like that. That's probably all it's going to have on there. Okay. So the default pages and plugins, guys, like I said, the plugins are here. I just use a couple of them. Just the Silo Builder plugin is one of them. The default pages, what I mean by default pages is I have the home page, which is, you know, you set up a home page, and then you, in settings reading, you select the home page as, you know, as your default home page. Then I have the blog page, contact and about, privacy and terms. Those are pretty much your standard default pages, right? So home, about, contact, blog, privacy and terms. Those are always what I put on every single site. Okay, so you can see that I have those. And then from there, I set up my silo structure, which is going to be, and I'll show that to you right here, the complex silo structure. For those of you that aren't familiar with what the difference is between a complex silo structure and a simple silo structure, we've talked about that many times. We can dig up the link, drop it again, but I've got videos that explain the differences between complex and simple silo structure. We'll go over it very briefly here, but we're not going to go into it very in depth because, again, I've got additional. I mean, I've beat that horse 1,000 times. Okay, and so we'll just share what we've already done. But a complex silo, and the reason why I'm using a complex silo with this particular site, and what I mean by complex silo, guys, is top level pages or parent pages, right? Top level categories and parent pages, and then there's subcategories and child pages. And then we get down to the post level. So the posts always, and you'll see it in the URL structure. I'll show it to you in just a moment. But the posts become supporting articles at a subcategory level. Okay, so they're nested below the subcategories. It's very effective for when you have multiple niches or themes within one site, or if you're covering multiple areas within one site. Then a complex silo structure is the better option to use. And you'll see that in just a moment when I show you the URL structure and everything else. For most stuff, a simple silo structure, and guys, if you're not real good at building websites yet, don't try to go out and overcomplicate this and build these crazy silo structures and everything else. Don't do it, because it will confuse you and end up causing you a ton of work. Stick with a simple silo structure, and save yourself a ton of hassle. And as you become more advanced in your SEO career and your web building career, whatever, then you can go with the more advanced structures. The only reason why I'm going with, I should have probably just stuck with a simple silo for this training specifically. However, like I said, I don't want to limit myself with this particular site to just like remodeling theme. Potentially with a complex silo structure, I'm going after, and we're going to start with targeting home remodeling, and in the sub niches of home remodeling, such as bathroom remodeling, kitchen remodeling, basement remodeling. But I want to also have the ability to take this same site and rank for terms like gutters and gutter repair. How about landscaping if I wanted to, roof repair or roofing and roof repair, you know, HVAC if I wanted to, all of that, because that's why I chose the domain Local Home Pros, because this could essentially, this same site, I could end up ranking using silos and categories for multiple, services, home related services, contracting services. And so I didn't want to limit myself. With a simple silo structure, your theme has to remain fairly tight on the site, or else you lose. It's called bleeding the theme. You will bleed your theme between, because you don't have the structure in place that can keep it really tightly grouped. But with a complex silo structure, you can be more broad with your overall site, can be more broad because of the way you silo things out, keeps the themes tight. And now you'll see that what I'm talking about here in just a moment. But I went with that, guys, because I fully expect that once this site, especially because Gainesville is not going to be that difficult to rank for a lot of this stuff, I don't want to stop at just home remodeling in the sub niches of these remodeling, kitchen and bathroom and basement remodeling. I want to go into other stuff, and some of the other ones that I pointed out that are easy to rank for, like gutter stuff, crazy easy to rank for stuff like that. But that's a niche that requires money. Fencing, that's another one. So I'm going to end up building that out. So let's go take a look at the structure of this.
We have 3 questions before you get into that.
Okay, go ahead.
Scott Gray wants to know, for the subdomains, can they be more state specific? For example, can he do virginia.localhomepros.net?
Sure you can.
And Gainesville as a category?
You can, but the problem with that, once again, there's a couple. You absolutely can do that. There's a couple issues to be concerned with that, though, that you just have to be aware of. Number one, if you're doing that, if you have like a state subdomain, for example, and let's say you've got 50 counties in your state and you want to build out county, silos, then you've got to just be concerned, because if at any point that subdomain, if anything that you're doing can cause a penalty to that subdomain, your entire site and all of those counties and everything will be affected. Okay. And again, it's about eggs and baskets, guys. That's what I talk about. I like to spread my eggs out in as many baskets as possible so that I limit my exposure or my risk in the event that something south or something bad happens and my site goes south, that it limits my liability. You know what I mean? Like my losses, it limits my losses. Because if you have subdomains on a city basis, for example, then you would only lose that one city. So let's say that you got 20 counties or 20 cities that you want to build out for a lead gen site. If you were to do in one state, okay, and you wanted to do a virginia.localhomepros.net site, and then you wanted to do city silos, and that absolutely makes sense, because it makes it easier to only have to deal with one website install, managing one WordPress installation. But again, the problem is, if you were to get hit with a penalty, it could affect the entire subdomain and all of its silos and everything, and now you're screwed. You've just lost that revenue. Whereas if you have instead 20 separate subdomains based on the city, so city subdomain sites, and you got hit on any one of them, you still have 19 others generating revenue, right? And that's my whole point in doing that, guys. I always like to try to limit my exposure to where if Google comes and smacks me, because it's happened, guys. I've had many sites slapped because of stuff that I've done. And with lead gen stuff, I'm a lot more aggressive than with client stuff. Okay. And so I like to limit my risk so that I you know, I still have other sources of revenue coming from the same domain if one of my subdomains gets hit, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, next one. Marco?
The next one is from Scott Rogers. He says how he understands how subdomains via cities can work for his lead gen case study, but he wants to know if there's a method to use for e-commerce sites. For example, my wine gift boxes, maybe for each type of wine or each holiday event.
Absolutely.
How about using that instead of cities?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can. In fact, for e-commerce sites, a lot of the times that's the best way to go. I'm not a big e-commerce guy. I don't have a lot of experience in there, but I've worked with other SEOs that have, and that's one thing that they do that works very, very well is to silo your site via subdomains and categories. So in other words, each category gets its own subdomain. And that's one way that you can do it, because then it's highly themed. It's each subdomain is highly themed, and you're limiting your risk, just like what we talked about with the cities, or either city subdomains or state subdomains, right? Because you're limiting your risk. So, excuse me, there's a lot of benefit to doing that. Keep in mind that it means there's more sites to manage, but I think it's a small price to pay to just be safer overall. Okay. All right. So the last one. Did you have one more, Marco? If not, I'm going to move on because we're running out of time.
Yeah. No. Sorry about that. Shannon Adams wants to know if you would do separate IFTTT networks for each city subdomain.
Yeah, that's a great question, Shannon. I've done it both ways. One of my bigger tree service sites, I've got a bunch of subdomains, and I only set up one branded IFTTT network. And I've tried it a couple different ways with the blogging as the IFTTT blogging as my link building strategy, and I've done it to where the root domain had the blog, and then the blog was blogged out to the IFTTT network that was branded, and then just the link building was a contextual link within the blog post to the actual subdomain sites. So like I do a blog post on, let's say, Fairfax this week. Next week I do a blog post on Manassas. The next week I do a blog post targeting Gainesville. And so each one of those but in this particular case, I'm going to actually do a separate IFTTT network for each subdomain. For this case study, that's how I'm going to do it. Okay. And once again, the reason why I'm doing that is because I feel like we can get more diversity out of multiple IFTTT networks that are targeted or themed specifically around that city, each city, because that way we have, even though we're not getting the IP diversity, because remember, like Tumblr is a set IP, but we get domain diversity because let's say we have Manassas and Gainesville set up, right? So those are two city subdomains, and I have a separate IFTTT network for both, for either, you know what I'm saying? One for Gainesville, one for Manassas. Then I'm going to have two Tumblrs, right? And two WordPresses and two bloggers and two Delicious and two Digos and all of that pointing back. So pointing back to the individual subdomain site, but it's going to benefit the domain overall, the root domain overall. Okay. So it's just like I said, as far as what I'm going to be doing for this case study is building an individual ring for each subdomain so that it's going to be essentially themed for, like, Gainesville Home Pros will be the actual brand name for that network, that IFTTT network. Great question though. And I've tried it both ways, and it's easier to manage with just one branded network that all of your subdomains post to, but I find that it's more effective to have the individual rings for each subdomain. Okay. All right, we got to move because we're really going to run out of time here. Okay, so anyways, guys, back to this. As far as the silo structure, you're going to see this is the top level silo here, right? Okay, and so this is home remodelings. This is going to be my top level term. It's targeting Gainesville. I don't need to put Gainesville in the title here. I don't need to put Gainesville in the URL, guys. I see way too much over optimizing going on when you guys are building out sites from students. I see it all the time, and I constantly advise not to do that, right? Because we have Gainesville in the domain right here in subdomain. So it doesn't need to go at the post level or the page level. We don't need to mention that at all in the URL because it's already present in every single page or post on this entire site because it's part of the domain or the subdomain in this case, right? So we do not need to mention that here. Now, I've mentioned this before. I know we're running out of time. We're not going to get to as much as I wanted to, but this is important, and I want to bring this up again. So we're going to do this right now. There are 4 things that Google looks at when it comes to crawl your site for the first time, or at any time for that matter. But there are 4 things that Google looks at, and it takes like a snapshot and a snapshot, and makes an initial evaluation of your page that will put it into a category. This is what their algorithm will do, and it will determine based on this initial glance. It's like a first impression is a lasting impression. So the first glance that it takes at your site, it's going to look at 4 things, and depending on where you lay out, you know how you look to them for those 4 things, how you look to Google for those 4 things, then it's going to prejudge the rest of your content for that page. And so you don't want to screw that up front. You want to make that as natural as possible. So these are the 3 things. the 4 things. SEO title. Number 2 is the URL. Number 3 is the page title. Number 4 is the meta description. And I know there are so many people that say that the meta descriptions are not counted by Google anymore, and they're full of shit. They absolutely are, and this is why. Now, when they look at SEO title, URL, page title, and meta description, let's go through this very briefly, what that means. SEO title is the title that you set. If you're using a SEO plugin, it's that title that you set on a page-by-page basis. And like, for example, with Yoast, it's going to be the widget area underneath, or the Yoast settings area underneath the post or the page on the actual, the page editor itself, where you can set the SEO title. It's essentially the meta title, right? So that's also what's going to show up here. And that's what's going to show up in the search results, okay, when that page is indexed. So in this case, remember, guys, this site isn't completed yet. This is just the framework of the site. So this will be changed to have the phone number and the title tag, the SEO title, and everything else. But at the moment, it's just saying home remodeling, Gainesville Home Pros. So that's the SEO title. In my opinion, that is the most important place to have the exact match keyword. And it is the only place that needs the exact match keyword in these 4 items. Okay. Again, as traditional SEO would tell you, and this is like old school SEO now, but like 2 years ago, it was you put the exact match keyword in the SEO title. You put the exact match keyword in the URL or the permalink or the slug, whatever you want to call it, right? So it would be home remodeling Gainesville, VA right here, right? No, not anymore. Make that as succinct and as short as possible. Boil it down to its most basic or bare slug that you possibly can, and I found that to be the most effective. And it also makes just a prettier URL. It makes more sense, okay? Page title is your H1 tag. That's this right here, okay? So when you're giving your page a title or your post a title in WordPress at the very top of the editor screen, that's what your H1 tag is. Typically, most WordPress themes that's going to be by default an H1 tag. That's called the page title. Remember that by default, most of the time your page title is your SEO title unless you manually change your SEO title via the SEO plugin settings, okay? Lastly, your meta description. Your meta description, Google also very quickly glances at your meta description. So what I do is I only insert my exact match keyword in one location only, and that's the SEO title. Then the URL, I boil that down, make that as succinct and as short as possible, okay? Page title, I always have usually a conversational type of page title, which means like a natural speech pattern type. Like, for example, home remodeling Gainesville, Virginia, or Gainesville, VA would be my SEO title for this page. So I wouldn't put home remodeling Gainesville, VA here because that's not natural sounding. People don't talk that way. I might say, what type of home remodeling contractor should you look for in Gainesville, Virginia, spelled out, right? So that's more of a conversational type title. The occurrence of my main keywords that I want to rank for happens. The instance of those keywords happens in that title, but they're not necessarily adjacent to each other, especially if it's unnatural sounding. And for most EMKs, exact match keywords, it's unnatural sounding. So make that just a very natural speech pattern, like to where it flows naturally. And then if you have an instance of your keyword in there, that's fine, but you don't even have to try to force that. As long as it's like, in fact, I could even lose the home remodeling and use something like home renovation. I could say, searching for a home renovation company in Gainesville or something like that, guys. And once I get the site put together, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But I would probably use some sort of an LSI, because renovation and remodeling are very, very similar terms. They're synonyms. They're semantically related. So I would probably use renovation here instead of home remodeling. Site's not done yet, but you will see this next week. Okay. Again, meta description, guys, I just try to get the location modifier in there. So Gainesville, and then another LSI, or, semantically related keyword. And that's basically it. Okay. Then once Google makes a determination, if your site is over optimized because you've got the exact match keyword in 2 or 3 or 4 of these spots, Google's already going to give you like a negative, it's going to look at you through like a negative lens, if that makes sense. Like, it's going to say, okay, you know what? This guy is clearly, this page is clearly optimized for search, and it's going to automatically put you in a category of being suspicious. Okay, so then it makes it harder to rank. That's why I say make this just as natural as possible with only your exact match keyword in one location, because then it's going to give you a fair shot for the rest of your content. That makes sense. And I spent way too much time on that, but that's very important. We'll get into that a little bit more. So anyways, guys, you'll see, like I said, the home remodel, you see it in the URL structure. This is the top level category. This is also a parent page. Okay. Now we're going to get into the subcategories, which are also known as child pages. It's one and the same. You have to create, and the Silo Builder plugin will do this for you automatically. Again, I've got training on that. I would make sure that I drop that in with the replay, so that you guys will have the training on both simple silo structure and complex silo structure, and how to use the Network Empire Silo Builder plugin. Okay, I go through that. So I'll make sure that I put that in there. But take a look at the URL now. You guys see how I don't have kitchen remodeling in the slug? It's GainesvilleVA.localhomepros.net/remodeling/kitchen. See how succinct that is? How, like, that's short. It's to the point. It's perfectly logical. Okay, it's not over optimized. Doesn't need to be. Okay, because I'm going to have, in fact, again, this says kitchen remodeling because right now I have not added the content. My writer does a fantastic job of, when she sends me the page content that I've ordered, she always gives me conversational titles. So you'll see when I get the content added to this page, it will have a conversational page title. The SEO title, however, which you can see up there, it says kitchen remodeling - Gainesville Home Pros. My exact match keyword is in that SEO title because kitchen remodeling is what I want to rank for. Gainesville, VA. Well, Gainesville Home Pros is already there. I'm probably going to rework that a little bit anyways when I go to actually add the content, but I'm also going to put my phone number in the title tag. I always do that. And that's kind of a double-edged sword. We'll talk about that later when we analyze the site next week. But there's benefits to putting the phone number in the title tag. For websites, you can do it. For YouTube videos, I don't recommend it. But there's also drawbacks now for having the phone number in the title tag, because it sometimes people won't click through on the SERPs because they'll just call you. And if you're not getting high click-through rate, then Google will demote your site. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. So you guys can see that from the top level page, I've got a link down to each one of my subcategories. And then from my subcategory page, and in this case, I don't have it because I just didn't, there's no content on here. I'm just going to put some lorem ipsum text on here. But you'll see from each subcategory page, guys, I'm going to link back up to the top level category page. You can see it in the URL, guys. You see that? So if we take a look at this one, it's remodeling basement, right? All right. And lastly, like I said, I currently have countertops as a subcategory of home remodeling. However, I may end up moving that into its own top level category. And then my subcategories would be the countertop types, like Corian and concrete and glass and granite, and all those could each be subcategories. So there's a chance that that might become its own top level category. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to monetize it that way or not. We'll see. All right. Wow, we really are not getting near as much done as I wanted to. So that's what this asterisk here was for, guys, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. Okay, what else did I do? The Google account, I set up a Google account. It's actually one that I had set up already that had an IFTTT network. It was a persona-based network. So I just used that Google account that I'm going to attach to this project with a new branded IFTTT network. Okay, because the other one's a persona network. That's not going to work. So I'm having a new IFTTT network created with using that Google account. So the silo structure is in place. The Google account has been set up. The content has been ordered. I ordered it from my writer actually today, but she said she'd have it to me by next Tuesday at the latest, which means I can get the content put on for next week. And we'll go over some of the stuff that we talked about now and a little bit more in depth next week. The logo and the graphics have been ordered. I'm going to have the logo is being created now. I should have that back tomorrow. And then the social media graphics will be ordered once the logo is back. And then I will have the social media graphics to go for the branded network across the network properties. Okay, it makes a difference. And it's also going to be the graphics that I use on the website. Okay, so the complex silo, we already went over this. Homepage, home remodeling is the top level and parent page. It's the top level category, parent page. These are the subcategories and child pages. And then if we need additional boost, I don't think we're going to for Gainesville because it's not that competitive of a market yet. Excuse me. But if we need additional push for any one of these, we'll be able to just do posts in that category, right? So that's what makes it so powerful. And we'll get into that more when we get in. Once the site's complete, you'll see what I'm talking about, because the SEO strategy is what we're going to talk about very briefly now. I was hoping to get into this a little bit deeper today, but we're not going to have the time. But that's okay, because like next week when we meet, the site will be complete. At least for the most part, it's going to be complete. Okay. And then the off-page SEO portion of the case study begins, and we'll be going into that over the course of the next like 3 weeks after next week. So like probably not next week, because we'll be talking about the completed site and then the SEO strategy, the off-page strategy going forward. But for the following 3 weeks, it's going to be pretty much all about off-page stuff. Okay, so we'll get into that a lot more in depth. But the SEO strategy is first to complete the site, which should be done by next week. And then to complete the map setup. Guys, I know on the to-do list from last week, I said that I was going to have the maps set up. And actually, I did buy the, I've got the P.O. box, which we'll talk about this more next week because we don't have time today anyways. I reserved it, but I have to go into the post office to fill out the paperwork. I'm going up to Gainesville on Friday anyways, and so I will take care of it on Friday. The only reason I didn't have it ready this week is because I did not have any reason to go to Gainesville other than for that. And so I didn't want to make a special trip. So that's about a 45-minute drive for me. But I will go up on Friday and get that. So by next week, I will have the map set up completed for Google and Bing. Okay. The SEO strategy then, excuse me, is 3 to 5 blog posts, guys. That's to prime the IFTTT networks. That's all I care about is 3 to 5 blog posts. Okay. Just to get the network primed. I'm not sure I'm going to be doing a lot of blogging for this site because I don't think I'm going to need to, because it's lower competition. Higher competition stuff, then you just need more blog posts if you're using the IFTTT network strategy, which is very, very powerful, very effective. But for this particular site, I don't think I'm going to need it. We'll see, but I don't think I'm going to need more than just like 3 to 5. And that's to prime the network so that I can set up FCS and GSA campaigns to my tier 1 network sites. We talk about that a million times, guys. That's what we do. Once an IFTTT network is built, it goes over to get the FCS and GSA campaigns built to it to just increase the power of the network. Okay. Citation package. There's a couple of them there's one guy that I use all the time, Andrew Scherer from marketerscenter.com. He's awesome, but there's actually a couple other citation services that I want to try. And I thought this might actually be a good opportunity to test them out for part of this case study. Not to take anything away from Andrew. He's a great dude, and I recommend him all the time, but I think we're going to try something else for the citation package. But that's the next thing. As soon as the maps are done, guys, citation packages are being ordered. Okay. And I'll probably spend $100 to $150 on a citation package. It's worth it. Get it done right up front. Then the FCS and GSA not only goes to the tier 1 network sites, but also to the citations, right? And I hand select the best citations to build links to. We'll talk about that a little bit further as we get deeper into it. Social signals, guys. I know we automate some of that with the IFTTT stuff. However, I've been testing recently a couple different social signals stuff, and I'm seeing some pretty good results with it. And I'm actually using a service called Drip Revolution that I'm kind of like. I don't have enough data yet to see if it's really, really good, but I kind of like it so far. So I'm going to probably set up some campaigns using that, and I'll share that with you guys as well. But I always push additional social signals to the home page, the posts that are going to be syndicated to the network, right? The T1 network sites, we build additional social signals to those and into the citations as well. It's not just about links anymore, guys. Okay. I like the social signals is a very big part of the algorithm now. And lastly, SAPE and/or PBN links if needed. Okay. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of today. this presentation when I said possibly poking this site. I was going to not do this at first at all because I wanted to go with the more traditional route with these signals here, guys, before doing this to see if we can rank it without them, which I'm pretty sure we'll be able to. But a lot of the times, guys, what I will do with a new site that I'm in a new area is I will set up the IFTTT network, do my 3 to 5 blog posts to prime or seed the network, and then I will select those post URLs from the networks that have the do follow links, and I will hit them with SAPE links or or high powered PBN links, and then use that to push the site up very, very quickly into the search results. And then I'll go about doing the rest of the more traditional stuff. However, I think for this case study, we're going to start with the more traditional stuff and see how quickly we can get it. If we need the additional push, we'll do that. Because I understand that a lot of people don't have, PBNs or the SAPE stuff. It's a little bit more advanced anyways. So we'll talk about that as we get to it. All right, so let me go over goals for next week, and then we'll answer just a couple questions, guys, and we got to wrap it up. Set up the mailbox for the physical address next week. Like I said, I've reserved it. I've just got to go fill out the paperwork. So I didn't want to do that until I've got the actual box number. I don't have the box number yet. I'd have it reserved, but they don't assign that until I fill out the paperwork. Site completed, all the pages, the theme, the skin. Again, I typically don't change this out right away until I'm ranking on page 1, but I'm probably going to do it this time because this case study is moving very quickly, and I don't want to waste time on that. So I think I'll go ahead and theme this out and skin it. I'm going to use one, like I said, the ink themes, local lead gen theme. I've used that a lot, so I'm very comfortable. I can set that up quickly. It'll be connected to the branded IFTTT network, Google Plus Bing Maps list, and Google Plus and Bing Maps listing setup. Or the Google Maps plus Bing Maps listing setup. Citations ordered, blog posts ordered, setup of FCS and GSA campaign to the IFTTT network. That's going to be done immediately. Even before my blog post gets syndicated, I'm going to start hammering my IFTTT network guys with links. I don't need to wait for that. Just start hammering them. Okay, and then we're going to set up this first social signal campaign. Okay, so next week we'll start the off-page campaign. We'll talk about that a lot more in depth, and hopefully you guys will get a lot out of that next week as well. I'm going to post all the resources in the replay area for this week. Marco, what do we got? Any fires to put out?
Yeah, we have actually quite a few questions. But
all right, well, let's roll through a few of them, guys.
Daniel Klutz wants to know that, especially with Google's doorway page updated mine, how much effort are you going to put into making your content unique for each city?
Not a whole lot. Well, I say that, but no, that's not true. Every single site that I build out for each city, I'll send to my writer, and she'll write brand new articles for it. That's what I do. I mean, like if I'm doing like a Lead Gadget or a SERP Shaker site, then it is what it is. But if I'm building out manually these sites on a city by city basis, then I just send them. I've got 2 writers that I use for this specifically for this kind of content, for my web page content. And so like I might send this group to Esther is her name, and then I might send my Manassas for the same terms, but just in a different city, to Elon. And then when I go back to my next site, it'll go back to Esther. So I just alternate between them so that it is 100% unique.
Now, what about subdomain to subdomain?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, city to city, subdomain to subdomain will be unique.
Yep.
All right. Next is Shannon again. Back to the subdomain. So if you use city and you're targeting nationally, that becomes a lot of subdomains.
Yes, that's not a good. Yeah, okay. In that case, Shannon, I would not recommend it. Absolutely not. It'd be too much to manage.
Okay. Now Jay says if you've already created a lead gen site without subdomains, what's the best way to migrate to a subdomain system without losing rankings?
Well, if you've got something that's working, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it's already working, just stick with what it is. I tell you why I do what I do, and why I'm setting up this case study this way is because it's the way that I typically do things, because of the whole risk factor. But if you've already got something ranking, then I wouldn't mess with it. Now, if you're dead set on doing it anyways, if you're determined to just do it because you want to limit your risk and stuff like that, so be it. Then you can set it up and just do 301 redirects. You will see movement, though. Your sites will dance whenever you do any major structural changes, even if with 301 redirects. They are going to dance. However, they may settle back into where they were and maybe even stronger. But you just know that there is going to be a period of time that your site's going to dance. Any kind of structural changes you make like that, your site will move, period. There's nothing you can do about it. But chances are, if you set it up proper, you structure it properly, when it settles again, it should settle higher or stronger. But again, it's something you have to be aware of before you do it. Okay.
Okay, and then the next question is, would you add Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter accounts as well for each subdomain, or just the main domain, or not at all?
Well, yeah, in this case, yes, I am. Now, for example, with this particular case study, like I said, I'm going to do Gainesville Home Pros, and it's going to be that one particular persona. It's going to be the account owner, but all of the accounts for the network are going to be themed for Gainesville Home Pros. So on the next one, let's say I do Manassas, I'll probably do Manassas with a different persona as the Google account owner, and in a whole entire other IFTTT network with Manassas Home Pros as the brand, right? It'll have the same branding, the same logo and everything as the parent or the root domain, which is just Home Pros. But the name of the business will be Manassas Home Pros, and it will have the username for each one of the sites, like the IFTTT network sites, will be specific to that as well, right? So it'll probably have a different persona owning that. Does that make sense? Because once again, I don't want to lump everything under one account, because if that one account gets shut down, then it screws me for everything, right? So again, it's about mitigating risk. It's about spreading it out, putting your eggs in multiple baskets instead of one. Does that make sense? Okay, keep moving.
Yeah, the last question is this whole process from the perspective of a new person, meaning no network, etc., nothing already done except what you're doing? In other words, it's a person coming in having done nothing except what you're doing. Is that the perspective that you're taking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what this case study is. We're starting from scratch, right? We're building this out very quickly, but we're building this out starting from scratch. Now, as I mentioned before, there are some resources that I had available for time's sake that we're using, right? Like, so for example, the test YouTube channel to test or to poke the niches, right? To test keywords. That was an aged channel that I had that already had a few networks attached to it, which I described last week. So that absolutely, because otherwise we'd be waiting for me to get IFTTT networks back from my outsourcers. Those would have to be aged a little bit. Look, if you're starting off, it is what it is. If you're starting off brand new and you've got nothing, then you have to recognize it's going to take you more time to build some of these resources to help you to do this. So I'm not, all the cheating that I've done in this case study, guys, I've been 100% transparent with you guys, and I've disclosed it to you. I've told you exactly what it was that I do to call cheating, even though it's not really cheating. It's just some resources that I already had available, but I'm trying to keep it as close to starting from scratch as possible so that you guys can see that this is absolutely valid and it absolutely works. Okay. It's just because of a time issue. Normally, guys, for a lead gen site, normally I expect, when I start a new lead gen project, I expect it to be generating revenue within 90 days. Okay. So that's 3 months. Sometimes it's faster, but my expectations going into a lead gen project is for it to be generating revenue within 90 days. For this case study, I told you guys I wanted to have it generating revenue in 6 weeks. We're going to try to hit that target. So we have to move a little bit faster. So therefore, I've had to use some resources that were already available to me. Okay. Was that it?
That's it. That's it for the questions.
Okay. Let's see. Scott says, Scott, can I change? I can't, dude. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, Scott wants me to change the presentation from black background to white background, but this is kind of like our presentation brand, and I'm not going to switch that around. I'm sorry, dude. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. All right, guys. Well, if there's any other questions, guys, post them in the Facebook group. We've been a little bit quiet in there recently, but that's because we've been devoting more time to you guys here and to the mastermind. But if there's any additional questions that you have, if you're in the mastermind, ask away. If you're not, then put them in the Facebook group, and we'll get to them as we have time to answer questions in there. And we'll see you guys next week on Hump Day Hangouts, and then again for Masterclass Week 15. All right. So thanks, Marco. Appreciate your help, dude.
All right, no problem. Take care, everyone.